Hey, this is Joyce with Friends Drift In, Episode 6, Winter Preparedness.
For old-fashioned recipes and your gardening needs, while sipping on Kentucky bourbon. You sit right back in your big red hat, we're taking rural back from the urban. Listen to the stories where Kentucky proud, share the giggles with all of your friends. You're all tuned in to Friends Drift In.
Good morning. It sure has been a cold one this week. Across the nation, we've heard all kinds of stories about how the winter weather has had adverse effects, especially down in Texas.
Well, yeah, Texas got hit with a snow and ice storm that they haven't seen in years, evidently, and the whole power grid basically just went down.
One of the things that we talk about here at Friends Drift In is preparedness and being prepared for winter storms and power grid outages. And part of the reason that we do this is to talk to our nieces and our nephews to kind of help them along as they're starting their life journey. And something that really struck me with some of the coverage from Texas was a lady that was on one of the newscasts, and she was talking about it. Here we are, we have no power, and now you're telling us we have to boil water. Well, we don't have electric. And I thought, oh my goodness, do you not know how to start a fire? You know, oh my goodness.
I mean, there's so many things, and we had a similar situation here in Kentucky. We've had 3 storms come through in a period of 2 weeks. We had 2 ice storms, then an ice and snowstorm come in on top of that, and we've had a lot of damage. A lot of people, a lot of the roadways have been closed, and there have been people without power for up to 48 hours, maybe even a week in some places. All the power still hasn't been restored in Kentucky. Not quite as bad as it is in Texas, but Kentucky is more used to that, so people are a little bit more prepared. And I want to give a shout out to all the electrical workers all over the country, because when we knew these snowstorms were coming in here in Kentucky, AEP reached out and they brought in 1,600 extra people to help this. They were staged at the local high schools, local churches, everywhere. And as soon as this storm hit, they were out there trying to fix everything.
So a little background about Charlie and I. Later, as I went to college, I worked at the Agriculture Weather Center, which was a pilot program to help farmers prepare for weather conditions, whatever the case may be, whether it be winter storms or whether it be tornadoes, what have you. So when we're talking about winter storms, for me, I mean, it's all about the radio, you know, the radio and the TV. So generally, 48 hours before a storm is going to hit, you've got that 48-hour window. And I've kind of got a checklist in my head, and I really didn't think about it until we were getting ready to do this, but a checklist in my head. What do I do when I know a winter storm is coming in at the barn? We live in a big red barn, in case you didn't know. So first off, I run water in my bathtub. I make sure we've got extra water, because you don't know if those pipes are going to freeze off and you're not going to be able to flush your toilet. I want to flush my toilet. I put on a big pot of beans or a big pot of chili or whatever, something that will not only be cooking and be warm, but I'll have it cooked in case the power goes out and I have to use alternate cooking source. I don't have to be cooking for hours and hours. I've got chili ready. Then a third thing I do is I go around and I make sure that I've got candles. I've got flashlights. I've got lots of batteries. I look, I'm not in charge of the alternate heat, but Charlie will check the, what do you call it, Charlie?
It's called a Mr. Heater Buddy heater is what we have, but they're little propane heaters.
We're also checking to make sure I've got propane that if I want to cook, I can cook with our grill. If you don't have a propane grill that's got a burner on it, you can get those little burner. You can get a burner that is run by propane. I've even seen people in Extension do demonstrations where they cook with the propane burner. and not only cook, but can, do canning demonstrations with that type of thing.
There's several different things out there. You can get what's called a camp stove, which you can put just a small tank of gas on there, and you've got 2 burners. You can cook. It's shielded for the wind and stuff like that if you need that one. What she's talking about are professional butane or propane burners that they use.
So those are the type of things. I check candles, I check matches, I look and see what my food stores is, if there's any holes in my pantry that I need to fill up on, I do that. I make sure I have toilet paper. If I don't have toilet paper, I make sure I've got wipes, wet wipes. Make sure that my medicine is refilled. Those are the things that are my quick list. Then Charlie is in charge of the vehicles. So what do we do with the vehicles, Charlie?
First thing you do, anytime you know there's a storm coming in, you fill your tanks up with fuel, gas or diesel, whatever it may be, so that if something did come up, in worst case scenario, you could go outside and sit in the car and run the engine just to keep warm for a few moments at a time. Again, never ever run your car in the garage to keep warm because of carbon monoxide. We don't want anybody to have a problem with that, but you can go outside and run it if you have to. And sometimes, first thing you do is also charge up your batteries, like your cell phones, get them all fully charged, and you get those little power blocks, they're called, and you charge those up and have a couple of those because, a lot of times, especially here, we have a landline phone, and we also have a cell phone. But the landline phones, if we're in a wooded area, so we have a lot of trees that fall, especially in these big ice storms, and your power can go out, your internet will go out, and also your telephone will go out. So you need those cell phones for that, and for any other reasons. You check all the levels of fluids in your car, check your oil, check your antifreeze, check your antifreeze every fall anyway, to make sure you have the correct amount of antifreeze. So if it does get cold, nothing freezes up on you and causes you a problem, because it could destroy your engine completely if it cracks in the block or something like that. But those are things. Make sure you got stuff in your car in case you get out. You want to make sure you got like a tarp for shelter if you need it. Make sure you got a spare tire. Make sure you've got, we always keep cat litter in the back of our, just plain cheap cat litter in the back of ours for traction in the snow. We keep a blanket in the back of our car. We usually try to keep a change of clothes so that you can actually double up your layers and things like that.
Especially socks.
Yeah, because
And ladies, a pair of boots, or something that, not necessarily pretty boots, but boots that will keep you warm and that you can walk in the snow. It is no fun walking in the snow in my pointy-toed heels, I'll just tell you.
Yeah, and but those are the main things you want to keep up. Check the air level in your tires so that you're not having a problem. Because like we were just talking about a while ago, I just had a flat. Matter of fact, I've had 2 flats in the last 6 months. So put new tires on the truck, so we're in pretty good shape now. But what we found out is we bought a used truck that we used to work around the farm in, and had never had to change the tire. Looked under there, the spare tire was almost brand new, but it had seized up. So I had to call the neighbor to come and help me jack the truck up and get a tire to put on it to make it make do the first time that happened. So those are little things that you don't think about.
Check now. Check when it's good. Don't wait until the last minute. I was horrified when I was watching the people in Texas lined up at the grocery store. Here they are lined up. We got the COVID going on, so they can only have so many people going through at a time, and they're standing there in the cold trying to get, basic things like water. You stock up with water. You're supposed to have, for emergency, you plan on water usage 1 gallon a day per person.
That's drinking water and water for your food. That doesn't include water for bathing or water for using in your toilets. And like she said, we fill up a bathtub with water for the toilets, and if you have to take a quick bath, you can heat that water up and use that to wash off with too. So those are kind of things that you want to do. And also, if you live, like we live in the country, but we've got municipal water, so our water here, because of the mountains, is gravity fed. So when the power goes off, we still have water, but when the power goes off, you don't have heat. Even though we have gas heat, all your heat is now, all the new furnaces don't have pilot lights on, so they're all done by electric igniters, and electric fans, so therefore you have no heat. Now we can still cook on our gas stove. We can light it with a match or a lighter and cook, and we did the last time the power went off. First ice storm, we were able to cook. We were blessed, our power only stayed off for 2 or 3 hours, during that first ice storm. So we were able to cook, and I made a big dinner. We had a good dinner. By the time we got dinner done, the lights came back on, so we got to eat in daylight. And something we do, and we do this all the time. If we go to Tractor Supply, Rural King, Harbor Freight, Lowe's, any place like that, when they're having these big sales, we buy lights, flashlights.
Always lights. Flashlights, the little camping light lanterns that just kind of flip up like this. I'll drop a picture of it in, you pull it up and it lights up. We're always buying lights. Shout out to Prepper Princess out in Arizona. One of the things that she does is she buys the snap lights, and she also buys for over her kitchen, she buys battery powered lights that are just the LEDs that she sticks up over her kitchen sink and over her stove so she can see to cook whether the electric is on or off.
We buy the little headlamps.
Every member of your family should have a headlamp.
We have 2 or 3 each most of the time. You know, and beside both of our beds and our nightstands, we've got, I think I've got two or three small flashlights. Those just little ones about maybe 3 or 4 inches long. And we both have a lantern on our nightstand. That way if power goes off, we can read a book. We can stay in the bedroom with the blankets up. Always have plenty of blankets. Being in the mountains, we've got quilts and comforters, and you know, you can pile those on and you can stay warm down into the 20s even without any auxiliary heat.
Plus we've got a couple of major sleeping bags,
yes,
that we can put in. Now something that you can do, you know, if you're carrying with your bags in your car, you do those little, I call them aluminum, and I know that's not right, the shiny little emergency blankets.
Yeah, they're
reflective
foil,
of the heat.
Reflective foil emergency emergency blankets that you can buy at any place that you can buy camping supplies. They're out there, so you can do that. Water, we stock up on bottled water every time it goes on sale. So we probably got enough. We got enough drinking water to do us probably a week or two at the house at any time, because you know, here we've got a local grocery store that it goes on sale for $5 for a case of 24 16-ounce bottles. So we'll buy $10 or $20, $30 worth of water at a time. And you know, you can buy gallons of water to make your coffee with, or to drink, or whatever. You can buy the gallons for less than $1 a gallon most of the time, and they go on anytime something like that goes on sale, because just face it, water doesn't go bad, you know. And we obviously we have our own, we raise our own farms, so we've got canned goods that we can we got probably enough to get by for a month, probably a month or so.
One of the things that I laugh about with new people that are just starting to homestead, just starting to get into it, as they're starting to, that first year, we've done a video on that first year, what do you need to think about before you homestead. And we talk about putting together, you know, you need to have some, that first year you're not gonna sustain yourself as much. You know, best intentions, it's just not gonna happen. Either you don't have the skills, or there's going to be mitigating circumstances, and you need to have regular canned food and things back for yourself that first year especially. But something that confounded some of my friends, they were so proud that they had their canned goods. You know, they had gone to the grocery and they had stocked up on canned goods, and they usually did from scratch, and so these canned goods were kind of something that they didn't use a lot of. The electric was out and they didn't have a can opener. Y'all get a manual can opener. We've got maybe 3 in the kitchen. We got, you know, a couple in our camping supplies. You know, I'm always, you know, you can get those cheapy ones at the dollar store. You know, $1 for a little key one, or, you know, the fancy ones, the little, you know, army ones.
Yeah, you can get they're, I forgot what they're called. They're P something. But my dad brought one back from the Korean, when he was in the Korean War, and I've still got that and keep that. And it's only about 1 inch long, and I mean, you can open any can you want to with it. It was made to open up sea rations when they were back in those days, and that was what they were given. So you can buy those anywhere. You can buy aluminum ones, you can buy steel ones, but everybody ought to have at least one old-fashioned can. Get a good one good one. You know, the cheap ones.
Those are backups.
They will get you by maybe. I mean, but they wear out if you use them very much. But you get one of the old-fashioned ones with a nice heavy crank on it and everything. We've got, we've got at least 2 at home, and then we've also got a big commercial one that we bought at a auction one day that you can take and just drop in a 5-gallon can and crank it and have it done in just a few minutes.
So we watched, and as a farmer, one of the things that really breaks my heart down in Texas was, you know, they're not used to having a lot of snow. You know, that's a warmer climate than here we are. We're in USDA 6B, and their livestock, you know, talking about the livestock, and even here in Kentucky, my friend Sharon Spencer, shout out to Sharon at the Department of Ag, and Bob Perry, who is the University of Kentucky Ag Ambassador for
Chef in
Residence. He's my friend. You know, Bob was posting pictures of going out and breaking the ice for the stock, the cattle, to be able to get their food. We talked about in our video about homesteading, how much pain can you endure. When you're working on a farm, it's 24/7. Those stock have to be taken care of. I look at Hank Will, he's the former editor of, I'm not going to remember, it's either Organic Gardening or Grit or Grist. He's a former editor for one of those, and he had all of his sheep and goats, you know, they drop, you know, they have their babies right about now. And to keep them warm, you know, he had to bring them in because that they could, you know, when they're babies, they just can't handle these low temperatures. And if you've got, a lot of people had chicks right now, and figuring out what are you going to do with those chicks if the electric goes out. Yeah. So a lot of people were pulling them, you know, toward the fires, or they had extra little buddy heaters that they were putting near it. But you always have to watch out, you know, it's a fire hazard, so you're always watching for the, you know, not to catch anything on fire. And
you've really got to think, you know, and it's like I saw the other day, you know, we don't have any livestock at this point, but we've got pets. We've got a dog and a few cats. So what you need to think about is food for yourself, food for your animals. For up to a week to 2 weeks. In Texas, you probably needed at least 2 weeks. They've been about 2 weeks now without with the power grid being down or rolling blackouts. And if you got bad weather and you can't, like we live up on the side of a mountain. So if we got 6 inches of snow back at Christmas, and we couldn't get off the hill for 2 or 3 days. Sometimes you can't get off the hill for a week. Well, you got to have at least a week's worth of food for you and your animals. When we buy our food, we buy our cat food, about 40-pound bags, buy our dog food in 40-pound bags, and usually when we go, we buy 2 at a time. And try not to let that second 40-pound bag, as soon as the first one goes out, we'll go buy 2 more, and then you know, when we get down to 1, once we open that extra bag, then we go and buy more cat food or dog food, whatever it is. And as far as keeping the water, I mean, you just make sure when you fill up those tubs, fill up barrels or whatever, or we got 2 5-gallon jugs that we fill with water for the animals too when it's going to be really cold, because they've got to have water as well.
So we always, you know, a rule of thumb when you're preparing, no matter what you're preparing for, just general everyday living. You may get sick, you may not, you know, anything can happen. Crazy stuff. We saw what 2020 was. It's just crazy. So 1 is none, 2 is good. That way you always got a backup. I know Sophie, the Wonder Dog, Sophie broke her lead on her chain the other day. I had a backup chain. I didn't have to run to the store and get a backup chain to fix her and make sure that she was secure, you know, while we were working. I had a backup chain already. Then we go and, you know, the next time we're out, we replace that.
Actually,
so we've always got 2. We always
have 2.
We always have 2.
That way, you know, something happens.
It's the same with your cat food, with your own food. Back to the opening the cans. This week, Food City, y'all know I'm always all about coupons. Food City had their Beanie Weenies on sale, and they also had their pork and beans on sale. And the pork and beans was a 15-ounce, and the Beanie Weenies was about half of that. Yeah. But the Beanie Weenies have got that clip top, so you could pull it off without having to have a can opener. Mm-hmm. And while I despise processed food, the advantage of the littler can was that it had higher calories. When you're cold, you need those calories. You know, it had higher salt, it had higher protein. It was quick and easy. Now you can eat that cold. It's not gonna kill you to eat cold beans. Down here in the mountains, cold beans like beanie weenies, you know, Charlie's dad was a miner.
Yeah.
And to heat the beans when he was working underground, they would set them on the conveyor,
Any
belt.
kind of an engine that you had in there, whatever piece of equipment you were running, just set them on there.
Set them on there
heat of the engine
and go. When you talk about being out on the farm, you know, we're going to do a whole episode on go bags. Or what we really don't have a go bag. We actually have just a get home bag, because if I'm on the farm by myself, so when those is my backup. I know I've got heat hand warmers in there, just the little cheap ones. But I'd like to get a set of those Zippos. See, this is a Zippo. Zippos for hand warmers. Something that you did talk about is my car, particularly for whatever reason, is hateful in an ice storm. And one of the things that I have to do, sometimes I have to kick it to get the doors open. But even if I kick it and the doors won't open, the locks freeze up. And so always, always, always have a flick your bic.
Yeah, just a regular lighter, propane or butane lighter. And you could heat the key up and slide it in the lock. A lot of times that will unfreeze it.
And that has saved my hide more than once. More than once. Yeah. What do you worry about? You know, mostly when people worry about their lights and their electric, of course they're worried about food, you know, being able to get food. They're worried about water. They're worried about shelter and being warm. But what if you're in there for the long term and you have no internet? Are you going to kill your kids or what? So something that we always do in the fall, fall is when I do it, because Christmas time when people come in, we have a lot of visitors. But I start getting all the board games out. I put them up during the summer. We don't have time for board games. But board games, we lay in board games. So we got something to do, and it's fun. And even though I don't like using open like candles is my last resort. I much rather use something that is battery operated. Playing board games by candlelight is kind of fun, you know. And also we stock books. You know, Charlie and I both love to read, and so we've got a lot of books on hand. But you need to think about how you're going to fill that time if you can't get out, because you will. There is a reason that they say cabin fever.
Yeah, I mean, and you can use that time, like I say, that's one of the reasons we buy those headlamps. You can put that headlamp on, you can read a book, you can do a puzzle, you can do a lot of different things and have your hands free to do other things. I used it to cook. I use it when I'm cooking if it's dark. I mean, you do a lot of, they're just probably the handiest thing ever. Yes.
Yeah, they're hands free that way. Now we've got plenty of other flashlights, the big heavy duty flashlights. We go out and we check. Like, for instance, one of the things that we prepped for when we knew this ice storm was coming, we had been negligent in pulling off the gutters to our high tunnel. Yeah. And of course, if you got that ice and it's on the gutters going to pull it's going to be disastrous if all that weight. So we had to go out and pull those. Well, if you forgot to do that, it's coming. A headlamp is great, but you've also got those big heavy.
I've got a big spotlight we can use.
Spotlights, too. And I mean, that way we can kind of check and see what's happening. Sometimes you hear those big cracks and pops, and you want to know whether it's the electric going out or whether a tree is falling. And you check to see what's going on that way. One of the things that I worry about, Mom does not live with us. Mom lives on her own, and what a blessing that is that she's able to do that at her age. But I always check on your elderly friends and neighbors, making sure that Mom is safe, that she's got alternate sources of heat, that if we can't get to her, she knows how she can take care of her heat. She's got food put back, she's got water put back. She's got a little coats for her dog even. She knows the first thing Mom does when, all the things that her checklist is a little bit different from mine, but Mom gets cold easy. Elderly people, their circulation is bad. One of the first things she does, if she knows a winter storm is coming in, she goes on and puts a toboggan in. She told me that I had to wear a toboggan today to do this particular video. But putting a hat on your head will keep you warm. I mean, sometimes we've had to sleep in a hat. I've slept in a hat before to keep
you lose
warm.
A lot of your body heat through the top of your head.
And I always have gloves. Now I've got gloves in the car that are the little fingerless gloves that I just use for regular, but I always keep a pair of gloves on the console in my car. These are great. They'll keep my little fingers warm, because if you're going to get frostbite, they're going to be on your fingers, your nose, your toes. And of course, if you're out in Arkansas and you're a cow, they're having trouble with their little ears freezing. But if you have a pair of gloves, that's going to keep your, going to help keep your frostbite out. Frostbite can be,
yes,
it's bad.
Hypothermia, frostbite are the two biggest problems you have. You can lose your fingers, or and feeling to your extremities with frostbite, and it can turn into hypothermia, and you can lose your life with hypothermia.
When I was back in my freshman year at UK, I had won a trip to the National 4-H convention out in Chicago, and this was right around Thanksgiving weekend, and in Chicago it snows Thanksgiving weekend. It's just much colder, and there's a reason they call it the Windy City. But we had delegates from all across the United States, including Puerto Rico. Puerto Rican kids were so excited to be in Chicago when it started snowing. And, they were so excited, and they ran through the lobby at the Chicago Hilton, and they ran outside, and they didn't have coats. And, it was already enough that they could munch up a snowball and throw it. And, they got really cold, and they came in, and they were scheduled to come to our hospitality room next. And so they came in from the cold, and they were just excited, but their hands were tingling. And the first thing they did was they ran to the bathroom, and they run water over it. And they howled. Don't do that, y'all. Keep your hands warm, and definitely don't put water on them, right away, because it hurts. It hurts when your fingers get cold, and you got to keep moving. We talked about cars, using your car to keep warm. Even if you're using your car to get warm, you need to shuffle your toes. Do exercises with your toes and your hands. Make sure your nose is covered, your ears.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to show you a little bit about the buddy heater. All right, we're here to talk about, this is our little buddy heater. You'll notice this one is yellow and the new ones are red. This is one that we've had for a while, but they're real simple to use. I'm going to show you real quick. The cylinder is over here on the side. This is a 1-pound propane cylinder. You can buy this anywhere. You can buy camping supplies or like Rose, Rural King, Tractor Supply, any of those places. Buy them online from Amazon. We'll drop a link in for that later if you need that. But they're real simple to use. You just push down, turn it to pilot, and then you take it and you click it, and click it, and then you see the pilot light come on. You hold it down for about 30 seconds or so, and then the pilot light will stay on. Then it's a simple thing. You just go ahead and twist it, and you can see, if you can see the flames pop up, they pop up. You can feel the heat come out. They're that simple, really easy to use. Really easy to carry. They're very lightweight. This thing probably weighs about maybe 10 pounds if it weighs that much. You see. So we'll talk about the little buddy heater. Those are 1-pound cylinders. According to the manufacturer, the 1-pound cylinder will go for about 6 hours on minimum heat and about 3 hours on the maximum heat. So one of the nice things about those is they also offer a hose adapter that will work with that. You can take that adapter hose, you can hook it up to your 20-pound canister that goes with your gas grill. So that would do you all night, all day and all night if you needed to in a situation. They also make a refill adapter that you can put onto one of those tanks that will refill those small 1-pound tanks that you can carry back and forth. The nice thing about the 1-pound tanks is it's portable. You can carry it in one hand.
Easy to carry, even in an emergency. They're easy to carry, and they're great to use for livestock. Sometimes this particular one is made more for outside, but you can read your specs and see whether you get an outside one or one that can be inside, because again, we don't want anybody getting carbon monoxide. Right. It's got some special features, and if you tilt over,
yeah, it's got an oxygen sensor on it. It's got a tilt sensor on it. If you tilt it over, it will automatically shut off, so it shouldn't be an issue. They say they recommend you can use them in a tent, you can use them in a garage, you can use them in a work shed. So make your own decision on what to do with it at that point from there. But one of the things is always remember that, you know, be prepared for anything coming on. You know, you want to have medical supplies, your medicines, bandages, anything like that, just in case, because, you know, if you're out in this kind of weather, you step out on your front step, you may fall and hurt yourself and have to bind up a wound of some kind or anything like that. So make sure you have an emergency medical kit, first aid kit, whatever you want to call it. You want to have water, food, heat. Those are the main, you know, it's simple things. People need food, shelter, water, you know, and heat. That's what you really need to survive.
And certainly, we all get caught offhand. I mean, you know, we've been, you know,
Yeah.
we've been on trips. We were coming back from Atlanta one time, and we had a fuel line freeze up over in Hazard, up on the mountain. We had not planned to have, you know,
Right.
putting in the proper fluids to do that. You know, we did not plan on having a flat tire and the lift that brings the tire down. So you've always got to plan, and every time you have one of these emergencies, you need to use it as an exercise. All right, this is what I did right, this is what I did wrong, how can I correct it? And while you continue to prep all the time for different scenarios, you know, do it a little at a time. You don't have to go broke prepping. The idea with any time being prepared is that basically you can take care of yourself and your family without any help. Even if it's just for the short term, that you're doing right by your family.
I think so. I think that's exactly the way to look at it. And getting ready for this storm doesn't mean you have to go out and spend $1,000 tomorrow. But if you're out and you see something, and especially if it's on sale, you know, buy it and put it back.
As you're moving on, watch for the sales at the end of the season and just start thinking that way so that you can take care of yourself and your family. That's key, that's critical. And that you have extra supplies like candles and that type of thing that you can share with your neighbors that might need it, and being able to help your neighbor. Y'all stay warm this week. Keep prepping. Keep dreaming of your homestead if you're dreaming of it. If you're on the homestead, man, we feel you. It's been a tough week for a lot of people. We're praying for you. Remember, we have Gourmet Jam. You can forward that at friendsdriftin.com. Remember to like us and subscribe. When we get to 2,500 subscribers, and we got a ways to go, y'all, so we need some help. We're going to start doing some live chats, which will be more fun for us. We want to hear from you. What would you like to hear from us? What do you want to talk about? You know, as the winter gets away from us, you know, we'll be doing some more things down on the farm. We're kind of staying cozy right now. But what do you want to do?
Well, you know, and if you subscribe, keep subscribing, because when we hit 500 subscribers, we're going to give away a 4-pack of our jam to some lucky subscriber.
All right, I'm Joyce.
I'm Charlie.
We're Friends Drift In, signing out. Y'all, we're growing that good life in Appalachia.